8 days before Thanksgiving, I found my son's tablet on the kitchen counter and saw the group chat that shattered my heart. My son Ethan and his wife Brielle were planning to humiliate me in front of the entire family, present me with a retirement home brochure as a cruel joke, and suggest I leave my own house. Betrayal by your own child cuts deeper than any knife. I stood frozen in my kitchen, the tablet trembling in my hands, reading their mocking messages about how pathetic I'd look when they surprised me. That's when I decided silence would be my weapon, and patience would be my armor. Hello everyone, before we continue, make sure you're already subscribed to the channel, and write in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love knowing how far our stories are reaching. The message thread went back 3 weeks. Brielle had written, "Your mom won't see it coming. We'll do it right after dinner, when everyone's watching. Hand her the brochure in a fancy gift bag." Ethan replied with laughing emojis, "She'll be so embarrassed she'll probably pack her bags that night." They discussed how I was taking up space in what should be their house since I'd moved in after my husband died 2 years ago. My hands shook as I scrolled through weeks of cruel planning, each message a dagger to my heart. I'd given up my small apartment to move into Ethan's farmhouse outside Cedar Falls, Iowa, believing he needed help after his divorce from his first wife. I cooked, cleaned, tended the garden, and helped with bills from my modest pension. I thought we were building something beautiful together, a multi-generational home full of love. But Brielle had arrived 6 months ago like a storm, and everything changed. She wanted me gone, and my son had become a stranger willing to destroy his own mother to please her. The pregnancy announcement was mentioned too. "We'll tell them about the baby first, get everyone emotional and happy," Brielle wrote. "Then the gift to your mom will seem like we're helping her transition to grandma life, being responsible." The cruelty was calculated, designed to make their humiliation look like concern. They'd weaponized a grandchild I didn't even know existed yet, turning what should have been joy into a tool for my destruction. I carefully closed the tablet and placed it exactly where I'd found it. My reflection in the kitchen window showed a 73-year-old woman with silver hair and tired eyes, but inside, something steel was forming. I'd raised Ethan alone after his father left when he was 5. I'd worked double shifts as a nurse to give him everything. I'd taught him right from wrong, or so I thought. Now he was planning to discard me like trash. That evening at dinner, I smiled at them both. Ethan asked if I was feeling all right, and I said I'd never felt better. Brielle smirked, probably thinking about her secret plan. But I had a secret now too. 8 days stretched before me like a battlefield, and I was about to become a general. They wanted to humiliate me in front of my family? I'd give them a Thanksgiving dinner none of us would ever forget. The next morning, I couldn't keep silent. My heart hammered as I confronted Ethan in the barn where he was fixing fence posts. I told him I'd seen the messages, every cruel word about the retirement home brochure and their plan to embarrass me. His face went pale, then red, then settled into something cold I'd never seen before. He didn't apologize. Instead, he called it a harmless prank and said I was overreacting like always. The gaslighting was immediate and brutal, designed to make me doubt my own eyes. Brielle appeared in the barn doorway, her blonde hair perfect despite the morning wind. She'd obviously been listening. "Clara, we're just trying to help you embrace your golden years," she said with fake sweetness dripping from every word. "You're getting older, and we thought a retirement community might give you freedom. Friends your own age. Activities." She made it sound like a gift, like I was ungrateful for not appreciating their thoughtfulness. My son nodded along like a puppet, and I realized how completely she controlled him. I asked about the mocking messages, the laughing emojis, the cruel jokes about how pathetic I'd look. Ethan's jaw tightened. "You went through my private tablet without permission," he shot back, deflecting from his betrayal to my supposed invasion of privacy. Brielle touched his arm supportively, playing the role of concerned wife perfectly. "Maybe this is why we're worried about you, Clara. Boundaries. Understanding appropriate behavior. These are signs we need to address. She was diagnosing me with problems I didn't have, twisting reality like a pretzel. The pregnancy announcement came next, thrown at me like a weapon. "We're expecting a baby in May," Brielle announced with her hand on her still flat stomach. "We need space for a nursery. We need to build our own family here. You understand, don't you?" Ethan looked at me with pleading eyes, as if his impending fatherhood justified destroying his mother. I was supposed to gracefully exit to make room for the next generation, erasing myself from the home I'd helped maintain. I felt my throat closing with unshed tears, but I refused to let them fall. Not in front of them. Not when they expected me to crumble. Instead, I took a long breath and said the words that would change everything: "You're right. I overreacted. I'm sorry." The shock on their faces was almost comical. They'd expected a fight, tears, drama. My sudden compliance confused them, and confusion was exactly what I needed. Brielle's eyes narrowed suspiciously, but Ethan looked relieved. I hugged my son and congratulated them both on the baby. I said I'd been feeling overwhelmed lately and maybe I did need to think about my future living arrangements. Brielle's suspicious look melted into smug satisfaction. She thought she'd won. Ethan thought I'd seen reason. But I'd just bought myself time and the element of surprise. As I walked back to the house, I felt their eyes on my back, probably celebrating their victory. They had no idea the war had just begun. The next 2 days, I played the role of defeated mother perfectly. I shuffled around the house more slowly, sighed heavily, and browsed retirement community websites where they could see my screen. Brielle's satisfaction was palpable. She started redecorating her house in her mind, measuring the guest room for the nursery, discussing paint colors with Ethan. My son looked relieved that I'd accepted defeat so easily, which told me everything about how little he truly knew me anymore. I was building their overconfidence, brick by brick. While they thought I was broken, I was hunting. I started with social media, going deep into Brielle's past. She'd told Ethan her family owned a successful vineyard in Napa Valley, that she'd attended Stanford, that her father was a renowned architect. Her Instagram showed a life of wealth and sophistication. But I'm old, not stupid. I screenshot everything, cross-referenced names, and found the cracks in her perfect facade. Her family vineyard was a mid-tier winery her uncle worked at as a manager. Her Stanford education was 2 semesters at a community college. I joined a genealogy website and paid for a background check. Brielle Montgomery wasn't even her real name. She was Brielle Morrison from Bakersfield, California, and her past was a minefield of lies. Her father wasn't an architect, he'd served 8 years for embezzlement. Her mother had changed their last name after the conviction. Brielle had reinvented herself completely, and Ethan had bought every word. She was a con artist in designer clothes, and my son was her latest mark. But the real discovery came on day 4. I found her first marriage license from Nevada, dated just 18 months ago. She'd married a man named Derek Chin in Las Vegas, and there was no divorce decree filed anywhere. Brielle was legally married to someone else while playing house with my son. The pregnancy she claimed was Ethan's could be anyone's. This wasn't just a daughter-in-law who wanted me gone, this was a criminal living under my roof. I printed everything and hid it in a locked box under my bed. I also started reaching out to people from Brielle's past. I found her former roommate through Facebook and arranged a phone call. The woman, Lydia, had plenty to say about Brielle's patterns. She'd move in with successful men, drain them financially, then disappear. "She's probably married to someone else by now," Lydia laughed. When I told her about Ethan, the laughter died. "Get your son away from her before she destroys him." Too late for that, I thought. But not too late for revenge. I also called my brother Marcus in Denver, a retired detective. After hearing everything, he helped me strategize. "You need witnesses," he said. "Everything documented. And you need leverage." The leverage was already piling up, but the witnesses were the key. That's when I decided on my surprise Thanksgiving guest. I tracked down Derek Chin, Brielle's legal husband. He'd been searching for her for months over credit card fraud in his name. When I explained the situation, he booked a flight to Iowa immediately. Justice was assembling itself like a puzzle. If you're enjoying this story of betrayal and justice, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to stand up to family? Let us know. 5 days before Thanksgiving, I began the delicate work of rearranging the dinner itself. I volunteered to handle all the preparations, which Brielle loved because it meant less work for her. I created a seating chart that would place Derek Chin directly across from Brielle, though she didn't know he was coming. I told Ethan I'd invited an old friend to join us, someone who'd helped me through my grief. My son barely listened, too focused on his phone and Brielle's constant demands for his attention. I also started preparing a slideshow for after dinner. A tribute to family, I told them, full of old photos and memories. Brielle rolled her eyes, but Ethan thought it was sweet, a sign I was accepting my place as the older generation making way for the new. I spent hours scanning photos, but I also included something special, pictures I'd found online of Brielle's real family, her father's trial, screenshots of her lies. The slideshow would be a journey from heartwarming to devastating in about 6 minutes. Derek Chin called me twice to confirm details. He was angrier than I'd expected, not just about the bigamy but about the $50,000 Brielle had stolen from their joint account before disappearing. "I want her arrested," he said coldly. I told him to wait until after dinner, let her be exposed first, let everyone see who she really was. He agreed, understanding that public humiliation would be its own kind of justice. We were both victims of Brielle's lies, allied across generations and circumstances. I practiced my poker face in the mirror. I rehearsed my lines for Thanksgiving, the innocent questions I'd ask, the way I'd introduce Derek as an old family friend of Brielle's and watch her world implode. The woman staring back at me in the mirror wasn't the defeated mother Ethan thought I'd become. She was a warrior, scarred but standing, ready to fight for her dignity and her son's future even if he couldn't see the danger himself. Brielle started getting nervous around day 6. She'd catch me watching her sometimes, and she'd ask if everything was all right. "Just admiring how lucky Ethan is," I'd say with a smile. She'd relax again, reassured by her own arrogance. She truly believed she was smarter than everyone, that her lies were impenetrable. That confidence would be her undoing. I'd learned in my 40 years as a nurse that the most dangerous infections were the ones that looked healthy on the surface. The retirement home brochure they'd planned to give me sat in Brielle's closet. I'd found it while accidentally putting away laundry in the wrong room. It was for a facility 3 states away, expensive and isolating. They weren't just planning to humiliate me, they were planning to exile me where I couldn't interfere with their life. The cruelty was breathtaking. But in 2 days, that brochure would become evidence of their character, and everyone would see them for who they truly were. 2 days before Thanksgiving, Derek Chin called with news that changed everything. He'd done his own digging and found that Brielle was also under investigation in California for identity theft. She'd stolen another woman's credit cards and social security number 6 months before meeting Ethan. "The police in Sacramento have been looking for her," Derek explained. "I'm forwarding everything to them, but I wanted you to know first. My daughter-in-law wasn't just a liar and a bigamist, she was a wanted criminal sleeping under my roof." I sat on my bed, surrounded by documents, and felt the weight of what I'd uncovered. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. My son was tangled up with a dangerous person who could destroy his life legally and financially. The baby she claimed was his might not even exist. She could be faking the pregnancy to secure her place in his life. Everything about Brielle Morrison Montgomery was a fabrication, a carefully constructed lie designed to trap good people like Ethan into providing her with money, shelter, and legitimacy. I called my brother Marcus again. "This is bigger than Thanksgiving dinner," I told him. "Ethan could face legal consequences just for harboring her if he doesn't turn her in." Marcus agreed that the situation had escalated beyond family drama into potential criminal conspiracy. He advised me to record everything at Thanksgiving, to have Derek's evidence ready, and to call the police immediately after the revelation. "Your son needs to see her for what she is before she drags him down with her," Marcus said grimly. That evening, Brielle cornered me in the kitchen while Ethan was out buying more chairs for Thanksgiving dinner. "Clara, I know you're planning something," she said, her sweet mask slipping for just a moment. Her eyes were cold, calculating. "Whatever you think you found about me, whatever you think you know, it won't matter. Ethan loves me. He'll choose me over you every time." The threat was clear. I was fighting for my son's loyalty against a master manipulator who'd already won his heart. I met her eyes and smiled. "I'm not planning anything, dear. Just trying to make Thanksgiving special for our family." The word "our" made her jaw tighten. She wanted this to be her family, with me erased from it completely. We stared at each other in that kitchen like two chess players who both knew checkmate was coming, but only I knew which side would win. She left the room radiating suspicion, but she couldn't cancel Thanksgiving now without looking guilty. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about the moment when Ethan would see the truth. Would he thank me for saving him, or would he hate me for destroying his illusions? Would he choose reality over the fantasy Brielle had sold him? I didn't know, but I knew I couldn't stay silent and watch her destroy him. Tomorrow was Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. Derek would arrive in the evening. Everything was in place. The trap was set, baited, and ready to spring. We're halfway through Clara's story of courage and vindication. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss how this all unfolds. Drop a comment about what you think will happen next. Derek Chin arrived Wednesday evening, and I met him at the small motel in Cedar Falls before bringing him to the house. He was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with tired eyes that told stories of betrayal. "I loved her," he said simply as we sat in his rental car. "She told me she'd been in foster care, that she had no family. I wanted to give her everything. Instead, she'd stolen everything and vanished." We sat in silence for a moment, two people bound by the same con artist's lies. I showed him the guest room where he'd stay, introducing him to Ethan as Derek, an old friend. Ethan shook his hand warmly, clueless. Brielle was upstairs and didn't see him arrive, which was perfect. I wanted her surprise to be complete, her shock to be genuine and devastating. Derek settled into his room while I finished pie crusts in the kitchen, my hand steady despite my racing heart. Tomorrow would be a Thanksgiving no one would forget, a day of reckoning disguised as a family feast. Brielle came downstairs around 8, looking for Ethan. She froze when she saw Derek sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. "Derek," she whispered, her voice strangled. He looked up slowly and smiled without warmth. "Hello, Brielle. Or should I say Mrs. Chin? That is still your legal name, after all." The kitchen went silent except for the ticking of the old wall clock, each second heavy with tension. Ethan walked in from the living room, confused by the atmosphere. "You two know each other?" he asked, looking between his wife and our guest. Brielle recovered quickly, her face transforming into pleasant surprise. "Oh my God, Derek. I can't believe it's you. We went to high school together." The lie came out smooth as silk, but I saw Derek's hands tighten around his coffee mug. Actually, he said calmly, we got married in Las Vegas 16 months ago. Still married, technically. The explosion I'd anticipated started small. Ethan laughed, thinking it was a joke. Then he saw Brielle's face, the panic she couldn't quite hide, and the laugh died in his throat. What is he talking about? Ethan asked his wife, his voice dropping to something dangerous. Brielle's eyes darted to me, understanding finally clicking into place. She knew I'd orchestrated this, that I'd found her husband and brought him here. This is your old friend? She asked me, her voice shaking with rage. You vindictive old. I cut her off calmly. Derek is an old friend. Of yours. And he has so many wonderful stories to share tomorrow at dinner. Derek stood, his full height imposing in our small kitchen. Ethan, is it? We need to talk about your wife. About the money she stole from me, the credit cards she opened in my name, and the fact that she's wanted in 3 states. Ethan looked like he'd been punched in the stomach, his face pale, his hands trembling. The foundation of his world was cracking, and tomorrow I'd shatter it completely. That night, the house became a battlefield of whispered arguments and slammed doors. Ethan demanded answers from Brielle, and her explanations grew more desperate and contradictory by the hour. I heard her claim she'd forgotten to file divorce papers, that Derek was lying, that I'd hired an actor to destroy her. Each lie dug her grave deeper. My son's voice through the walls sounded broken, confused, a man watching his future dissolve in real time. I almost felt sorry for him, but he'd chosen her over me, and now he'd learned the cost of that choice. Derek stayed in his room, going through documents and preparing for tomorrow's revelation. Around midnight, Brielle tried to run. I heard her stuffing clothes into a suitcase, frantic movements above my room. But Ethan stopped her at the top of the stairs. You're not leaving until I understand what's happening, he said, his voice steel. You're pregnant with my child. You owe me the truth. Even now, he believed in the pregnancy, clinging to that one piece of their life that might still be real. I climbed the stairs slowly, my old knees protesting. Brielle stood with her suitcase, mascara running down her face, looking nothing like the polished woman who'd moved in 6 months ago. Tell him about the identity theft, I said quietly. Tell him about the credit cards you opened in his name last month. Ethan's head snapped toward me. What? I pulled out bank statements I'd intercepted, showing 3 new credit cards in his name, all maxed out. She's been stealing from you for weeks, son. Planning her next escape. Brielle lunged at me then, and I was grateful for Derek appearing at his doorway. He stepped between us, protecting me from the woman he'd once loved. It's over, Brielle, he said wearily. Tomorrow, everyone will know who you are. Then I'm calling the police in Sacramento. They've been looking for you. She crumpled to the floor, sobbing, but her tears didn't move me anymore. Calculated tears, practiced sadness, the same tools she'd used to manipulate my son for months. Ethan stood frozen, looking at the woman he thought he knew. Is any of it real? He asked her, his voice breaking. The baby? Your family? Your love for me? Any of it? Brielle looked up at him, and for a moment I saw something genuine in her eyes, not love, but regret. Regret that she'd been caught, that her beautiful con was collapsing. The baby is real, she whispered. It was the only truth she offered, and I wasn't even sure about that. The night ended with Brielle locked in their bedroom, Ethan sleeping on the couch, and Derek and me sitting in the kitchen drinking chamomile tea at 3 in the morning. Your son will hate you for a while, Derek said gently. For destroying his illusion. I nodded, knowing it was true. But better he hate me alive and free than love her and end up in prison, I replied. Tomorrow was Thanksgiving, and I was about to serve up the coldest dish of truth my family had ever tasted. The confrontation is coming. Make sure you're subscribed because you won't want to miss the Thanksgiving dinner revelation. Comment below if you think Ethan will forgive his mother or stand by Brielle. Thanksgiving morning arrived gray and cold, matching the atmosphere inside our farmhouse. The turkey went into the oven at 6, and I moved through my kitchen like a ghost, preparing stuffing and cranberry sauce while my family slept. Or pretended to sleep. I could hear Ethan pacing upstairs, could imagine Brielle staring at the ceiling calculating her next move. Derek emerged at 7, already dressed, looking like a man preparing for war. "Ready?" he asked me. I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. Guests would arrive at 2, my sister Margaret and her husband, Ethan's cousin Riley with her kids, my brother Marcus who'd driven overnight from Denver. 11 people total, including Derek and his explosive truth. I'd set the dining room table with my mother's china, the good silver, fall decorations of gourds and corn. Everything looked perfect, festive, normal. The disconnect between the beautiful table and the coming disaster made my hands shake as I folded napkins into elaborate shapes I'd learned from YouTube videos. Brielle came downstairs at 9, fully made up, wearing a modest dress that emphasized her supposedly pregnant belly. She'd chosen to play the victim, I realized. She painted herself as the misunderstood woman being attacked by a jealous mother-in-law, and a vindictive ex-Ethan followed her like a shadow, his eyes red-rimmed from crying or lack of sleep. He wouldn't look at me, and that hurt more than anything Brielle had done. My son thought I was the villain in this story. By 1 o'clock, the house smelled like Thanksgiving should: roasted turkey, cinnamon, sage. Marcus arrived first, hugging me tight and whispering, "I'm proud of you." My sister Margaret came next with her usual tornado of energy, oblivious to the tension. Riley's kids ran through the house bringing innocent chaos, unaware the adults were all walking on broken glass. Everyone complimented the decorations, the food smells, my hosting. If only they knew they were attending an execution disguised as dinner. At 2:15, we gathered around the table. I'd positioned Derek directly across from Brielle, with Ethan at the head and me at the other end. Margaret led us in grace, thanking God for family and blessings, and I almost laughed at the irony. We passed dishes in polite silence while Riley's kids chattered about school plays and soccer games. Brielle picked at her food, her eyes never leaving Derek, who ate calmly like a man with nothing to lose. The moment came after the main course, right on schedule. Ethan stood, clearing his throat, his hand on Brielle's shoulder. "Everyone, we have an announcement," he began, and I knew this was it, the pregnancy reveal that was supposed to soften everyone before they humiliated me. But before he could continue, I stood too, dimming the lights. "Actually, I have something first," I said sweetly. "A tribute to family. A slideshow of memories." I pressed play, and the first photos appeared: baby Ethan, family Christmases, weddings, and birthdays. Then Brielle's face appeared on screen, and everything changed. The slideshow shifted from heartwarming memories to Brielle's real past. First, a wedding photo from Las Vegas, Brielle and Derek, smiling at the camera, clearly in love. Margaret gasped. Riley's fork clattered to her plate. Ethan stood frozen, staring at the screen where his wife's secret marriage was displayed in high definition for everyone to see. "That's Derek," I said calmly, gesturing to our guest. "Brielle's legal husband. They married 16 months ago. No divorce was ever filed." The next slides came faster, screenshots of identity theft charges from Sacramento, Brielle's father's embezzlement trial, her real family that wasn't wealthy vineyard owners but working-class people from Bakersfield. Each image peeled away another layer of her lies. Her fake Stanford acceptance letter next to the real community college transcript. Credit card statements showing fraud in Derek's name. Then the worst, a police report from Nevada showing she'd done this before, married a man named Thomas Webb and stolen $80,000 before vanishing. Brielle screamed, lunging across the table to grab my laptop. Derek caught her wrist, his grip firm but not cruel. "Everyone needs to see," he said quietly. Marcus had his phone out, recording everything as I'd asked him to. Ethan stood paralyzed, watching his life implode in front of his entire family. "Mom, stop this," he begged, his voice breaking. But I couldn't stop, wouldn't stop. He needed to see everything, every lie, every manipulation, every crime. The slideshow ended with the final revelation: medical records I'd obtained showing Brielle wasn't pregnant. She'd faked positive pregnancy tests bought online, had been wearing progressive padding under her clothes. There was no baby, no grandchild, no future generation. Just another lie to trap my son and secure her position in his life. The room exploded in chaos. Margaret was crying, Riley had taken her children to another room, Marcus was on the phone with someone, maybe the police. Ethan turned on Brielle with something terrifying in his eyes. "Tell me she's lying," he demanded, his voice barely human. "Tell me my mother fabricated all of this." But Brielle had no words left, no more lies that would stick. She looked at me with pure hatred, and I met her gaze with satisfaction. "You destroyed me," she hissed. "You vindictive old bitch, you destroyed everything." I smiled, feeling no guilt, no regret. "No, dear. I just showed everyone who you already were." Derek stood and made a call. "Sacramento police?" "I found her. Brielle Morrison. She's in Cedar Falls, Iowa." He gave them the address while Brielle tried to run, but Ethan grabbed her arm. Not to protect her, but to keep her from escaping justice. My sister held me while I watched my son's heart break in real time. He was crying now, deep sobs that shook his whole body. He'd loved her, or the idea of her, and that love was dying painfully. But he was free. Finally, terribly, he was free. The police arrived within an hour, taking Brielle away in handcuffs while she screamed about false accusations and conspiracy. Derek went with them to file his statements. The Thanksgiving dinner sat abandoned on the table, cold turkey and congealed gravy, a feast for a celebration that never happened. My family left quietly, Margaret hugging me and whispering that I'd done the right thing, Marcus squeezing my shoulder with approval. Riley gathered her confused children and drove away, probably already calling other relatives to spread the story. Ethan and I sat alone in the wreckage of the dining room. He wouldn't look at me for a long time, just stared at his empty plate where a future had existed an hour ago. "I was going to propose to her again," he finally said, his voice hollow. "With the family here, after announcing the baby. A real wedding this time, everything perfect." He laughed bitterly. "There was no baby. There was never anything real." I reached for his hand but he pulled away, and that rejection hurt more than all of Brielle's cruelty. "You humiliated me," he said, turning to face me finally. His eyes were red, angry, devastated. "In front of everyone. You turned Thanksgiving into a public execution. You could have told me privately." I understood his pain, but I held my ground. "Would you have believed me? Or would you have chosen her, called me jealous and bitter, and helped her push me out?" He had no answer because we both knew the truth. He would have chosen Brielle, defended her against my accusations, been her accomplice in my destruction. Days passed in heavy silence. Ethan moved through the house like a ghost, handling calls from police and lawyers. Brielle was charged with bigamy, identity theft, credit card fraud, and multiple counts of conspiracy to commit theft. Derek's testimony, combined with evidence from California and Nevada, meant she'd face serious prison time. The baby padding was found in her closet, along with fake positive pregnancy tests bought on Amazon. Everything she'd told Ethan was a carefully constructed lie to manipulate and steal. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, Ethan came to my room where I was packing. He thought I'd leave now that the threat was gone, return to my independent life and let him process his shame alone. "Where are you going?" he asked quietly. "Nowhere," I replied. "I'm just organizing. This is my home too, unless you're still planning to give me that retirement brochure." His face crumbled, remembering his own planned cruelty, his willingness to humiliate me for a woman who'd been using him all along. "I'm sorry," he whispered, and those words broke the dam between us. He cried in my arms like he hadn't since childhood, deep wrenching sobs of grief and shame and relief. "You saved me, Mom. I was so angry, but you saved me." I held my boy, 73 years old holding 45, and forgave him silently for choosing her over me. Love means protecting people even when they hate you for it, even when it costs you their affection temporarily. Family isn't about being perfect, it's about being there when the lies fall away. Christmas came quietly that year. Just Ethan and me, no drama, no guests, no pretense. We cooked together, decorated the tree together, rebuilt our relationship one conversation at a time. He told me about the red flags he'd ignored, the questions he'd suppressed, the times he'd chosen comfort over truth. I told him about the nights I'd cried reading their messages, planning my counterattack while my heart shattered. We were both wounded, but we were healing. And when he handed me a small wrapped box on Christmas morning containing a key, a new one to the farmhouse door, symbolizing my permanent place in his home, I knew we'd survived. Not unchanged, but stronger. Not without scars, but wiser. And together, we'd face whatever came next as family should, united, honest, and unbreakable. Thank you so much for watching Clara's journey from betrayal to vindication. If this story moved you, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear about the power of standing up for yourself. Drop a comment about your own experiences with family challenges, we read every single one. Remember, sometimes love means fighting for people even when they can't see they need saving. Until next time, take care of yourselves and your families.